Thank you, Charlie.
If you had a baby.
Did you already take attendance?
11 past, sure. Supervisor Stewart.
Here.
Councilman Troy. Councilman Divney.
Here.
Councilman Valentine.
Here.
And Councilman Batari.
Here. Thanks, Charlie. So everybody has the agenda for the night. Just a couple of notes before we get going. There will be a public hearing on August 15th, and that's described in the top here as an announcement. I also want to mention that we are in workshop mode tonight, but there are a couple of items which we anticipate taking a vote on, and we will get to them pretty early in the agenda. One has to do with the sort of telecommunications equipment moratorium and making it possible for an applicant to continue at the planning board. And another has to do with a very timely appeal of the town's equalization ratio to the state body that sets that. I also just want to announce very quickly, just to update the town board and anybody interested, on items that aren't on the agenda, but we are working along. We've had a lot of discussion in town hall on. One is that we passed out responses to our waterfront park planning request for proposal. All the town board members have them. We are working as staff to provide guidance and recommendations and a kind of a score sheet for those, and that's in process. So the park RFP, which was received back, I think we have 6 or 7 responses, are still being evaluated. The town, regarding Aloof and the DEC permit process, the town did meet the deadline. We hired Sander Bonville, an environmental chemist, and presented a very critical and I think insightful response to the draft permit that the DEC has put out for public comment regarding Aloof's odor control engineering plans. And so that's in, and we're tracking and monitoring that and looking forward to continuing that work and making sure that they come into compliance. And we appreciate the community, town engineers, and others who are working on that. The Jpmorgan data center project, just everybody knows that's a big deal for the town, the redevelopment of Rockland Site. The project did get final site plan approval on June 28th. They're currently working on operationalizing that through building and demolition permits. And also, we're working on the final sale contract for town land and coordinating with Office of Mental Health on a host of legal easement, utility access issues and things like that. So it's coming along well. The town hall architectural study, as folks know, the town commission architecture group do a space needs analysis in recognition of the aging and obsolescence of this building and the advantages of bringing the building department up here. And that work is ongoing. The town board asked for more information from the Mutual Group, which is providing the cost-benefit analysis, and they're obtaining information about energy costs and other factors which would go into a calculation of the various benefits and costs of a new town hall versus repairs and renovations. And also, just as a note, we've started the 2018 budget process. The town council asked staff and department heads to come up with scenarios for spending for 2018 that included budget cuts, budget neutral, and modest increase, and that process has begun. So thank you to the department heads and staff who are working on those. So that's that, just for a couple of announcements. Does town board members have any other pressing announcements or comments we can move into? Okay. So the first item is this is a public hearing related to adding about $500,000 to a sewer project, and there's a lot of sort of public hearing and legal town board action related to this because the funding came through the state. And so, actually, this would be a matter for a vote as well. I should have said that. Right, Jeff? We're supposed to do this tonight. So we may as well just act on this. So I'll make a motion to open the public hearing on increasing the cost to, the improvement of facilities. Do I have a second on that? Or opening a public hearing. Second from Valentine. All in favor, say aye. And I'm looking at our sign-in sheet to see if we got anybody who wanted to speak on this. I'm seeing none signed up. Jeff, if you could just explain briefly what this, there's an extraordinary amount of very sort of specific and well-articulated information here about the adding of $500,000 to this project. And if you could just summarize it so briefly so that anybody who's really
Sure.
kind of watching this has some idea what we're doing.
In terms of the 3 pages of legalese, obviously that's created by our bond counsel and has been reviewed by our town attorneys. But essentially what we're doing, the town board 2 years ago already did public hearings for the initial $2 million. And as a reminder, it's a 25% grant, and the town gets the remainder at 75% at a 0% interest rate loan for 30 years. So this is a very good project for the town. We've been approved for the $2 million. Now they're allowing us to go up to $2.5 million. So we are going through the same legal process as we did originally to amend it from $2 million to $2.5 million. So the incremental is obviously only $500,000, but it's such a good program, and we have the need to stop the inflow and infiltration into the sewer lines as part of the DEC consent order. So that is the rationale for why we're doing it. This provides us the best funding methodology to do it and pay for it, and so I think it's a good deal.
And just to remind ourselves, the $500,000 addition, 25% of that is essentially a gift from the state of New York, about $125,000.
That's correct.
Which makes it worth all of the paperwork. So we thank you for that, and to the town attorneys as well. Any other comments or questions from the town board? We're still in the public hearing. By a raise of hands, anybody here who didn't sign in who wants to speak on this topic? Not seeing any other comments or questions folks have? No. All right. Do I hear a motion to close the public hearing? Move from Divney, second from Patari. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you so much. And so if we just continue on and finish this item, number 3 is a roll call vote. That establishes the public interest in making this improvement and spending this money, essentially. It also speaks to the public notification process being certified by the town clerk and provides a description of the action. So we need a roll call vote from the town clerk on this.
Somebody makes a motion and a second, and then I'll do the vote.
I'll make a motion for the matter. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Valentine, roll call vote, please.
On a roll call, Supervisor Stewart?
Yes.
Councilman Valentine?
Yes.
Councilman Vitari?
Yes.
And Councilman Divney?
Yes.
And you're here. Good. Excellent.
Thank you, Charlie. And then the next vote is actually kind of implementing the matter. We'll get down to the bottom.
Authorizing the issuance of an additional $500,000 in bonds.
Thank you. So roll call vote, Charlie, please.
I think we'll make a motion on that one also.
Jerry Batari will make the motion. Second from Divney. Roll call vote, please.
Councilman Vitari?
Yes.
Councilman Divney?
Yes.
Supervisor Stewart?
Yes.
And Councilman Valentine?
Yes.
Thank you so much, Charlie, for that. All the work that goes into these things. Our next matter is also for a timely action by the town board tonight, and that is public hearing on the request by Column Seal for a hardship exemption to the temporary moratorium on telecommunications facilities. It was discussed. We had a good discussion about this presentation by the applicant. Mr. Skay is in the back row over there, described his project, and the town board can take action on this tonight. I just want to mention that we did get a comment back from the county planning department, and that's described a little further on in these resolutions. But the first motion would be to open and continue the public hearing on the request So I'll make a motion for that. Do we hear a second? From Divney, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So again, this is the request simply by the applicant to be able to continue their application at the planning board, which gets into the details of design and siting and so on. When they had to come to the town board because we passed a moratorium temporarily on telecommunications facilities, which was really targeted at a broad range of facilities. Item number 6, oh, wait, sorry. So there's nobody signed in to speak on this tonight. By a raise of hands, is anybody here who would like to comment on the town board's action? Not seeing any hands up, and having discussed this at length last meeting, a motion to close from Tom Divney, second over here from Jerry Batari. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
So the public hearing portion is closed. The next resolution has to do with a State Environmental Quality Review Act review of any environmental impacts and response to the county comment. And maybe what I should do here, since it's pretty long, is, John, do you want to summarize this one for the town board? Everybody's had a chance to look at this, but sometimes it's helpful to have the person who wrote the majority of this just brief us on it.
Well, the recitals at the outset of the resolution briefly go through the existence of the moratorium and the circumstances of the applicant's application before the planning board, which was filed long before the moratorium was conceived. The moratorium provides relief in the case of hardship upon application with public hearing, comment by the county, and that's the process that's taken place. So what the resolution does is, number one, it acknowledges that this is a Type 2 action under seeker. You'll recall when the moratorium was adopted, it was a Type 2 action under seeker, meaning that no further environmental review is required. This is just an extension of that local law. The second portion of the resolution discusses briefly the criteria for the hardship exemption and how this application falls within those criteria, and requires an evaluation by you whether there is a hardship warranting the exemption, followed by, assuming you decide to go forward with that, there's one county comment, and that county comment simply is that the matter must be reviewed by the County Department of Highways and any permit required obtained. There's an override here of that requirement, not because it shouldn't be reviewed by County Highway and any permit obtained, but in point of fact, that's really a condition that should exist on the underlying application. Moreover, as part of the underlying application to the planning board, and as far as it has progressed, County Highways comments were solicited, and they simply said a permit's required. So if you approve the exemption, it goes back to the planning board. The application can be processed through decision. You're not making that decision for the planning board. And the County Highway Department's comments are covered. So the first thing you're going to do is, there is a roll call required because you have to have 4 out of 5, and you need all 4 to override that single comment, since there are only 4 of you here. So there should be a motion to override county comment number 1, the sole comment.
I'll make a motion to override county comment number 1 for the reasons stated. Second from Tom Divney. All in favor say aye. Roll call, please, Charlie.
Councilman, Supervisor Stewart,
Yes.
Councilman Divney,
Yes.
Councilman Vitari,
Yes.
Councilman Valentine.
Yes.
The second vote to be taken on the resolution is to grant the hardship exemption under the temporary moratorium local law.
Someone else want to make a motion on this? From Divney, second from Batari. Roll call vote, please, Charlie.
Councilman Divney,
Yes.
Councilman Vitari,
Yes.
Supervisor Stewart,
Yes.
and Councilman Valentine,
Yes.
last but not least.
All right, thanks so much, Charlie. Thank you, John, for that. The next item on the agenda, which is the last one, I think, that requires action or would be suggested for action by the town board tonight, is authorizing the filing of an appeal to the state of New York on the equalization rate, which has been already contested in various ways by our assessor, by the school districts, with help from Assemblywoman Ellen Jaffe and others. There's been some mitigation of the unfair situation as a result of providing additional data to the state, but there still remains a substantial unfair situation where the residents on the Orangetown side of the split school districts in Nanuet and Nyack are facing a rather extraordinary increase, and the residents on the Clarkstown side, just within those segmented school districts, are facing a rather major windfall or even a tax cut because of how the relative property values in Orangetown and in Clarkstown have been calculated. So that's what this is about. There's some language in there describing it. There's a piece of paper which I have to sign, and we're counting on the good offices of the state of New York to pay attention to this matter. So I'll make a motion for this. I need a second from Tom Divany. All in favor say aye. The ayes have it. Thank you for that. Okay, I think that's it for matters which really need town board action tonight. So on the workshop agenda, there are a number of other items. Some probably require some conversation, others are fairly routine. And I'll try to be as brief as possible. The number 9 is a contract with for the bike study. As most everybody knows, we applied for and received $40,000 in state funding to hire a consultant to take a look at bike safety, potential ways of improving that and facilitating it. And the town board asked the town staff to review the few responses that we got, which were worth reviewing, and make a recommendation, and that's what's included here. It was actually a really good conversation. Jim Dean was there, Eric Gorton was there, I was there, Vicky's done great work on this. We had questions, we had follow-up, conference call. Town board members were invited. Unfortunately, none could participate, but I know you've looked at these proposals and wanted the town department heads to take a look at them as well. The group felt strongly that while both of the kind of really qualified companies were impressive, that this one called Parks and Trails New York, for various reasons stated here, really seems to be the one that best matches what the town's needs are at this time. And so that's what that resolution describes, and I welcome any comments or questions from the town board. Both Jim and Eric are here tonight if you have any questions for them. Okay. All right.
No, and I support it. I think it's a good idea. Yep.
It's nice saying we got the money for it. It's a relatively modest study, but I think it's kind of exciting. And for anybody who's out there listening or interested, we are going to need people who are interested in biking or ride bikes, or families who have a lot of bikes and maybe their kids ride them to school, and others, of course, the bike clubs, to kind of come out of the woodwork and participate in the study. Number 10 is, following on that, is even though it's reimbursed by the state, our finance department likes to be as transparent as possible, so the money which we'll pay out for later reimbursement needs to be allocated, and that's what number 10 is recognizing that it will come out of fund balance. Any questions about that?
Nope.
Nope. Number 11 is, number 11 and 12 are both resolutions that follow our current contracted government relations person for work in Albany on the town's interests is Alex Becky. And as the town board knows, earlier this year, after contracting with the town for a year's service, and really, I think, doing a very outstanding job of it, he decided to leave one company and join another, and now he's leaving that one and joining another. hopefully to settle in for the long term, having found a really good match for his portfolio, which of course he hopes to bring with him, including the town of Orangetown. I would recommend that the town stick with him at least for this year, because we have projects in progress.
When's he coming in? Because, I mean, I like Alex, but.
Yep. Alex is available to meet with the board.
We want someone in Albany that is gonna give us stability, not someone who's hopping around from firm to firm, and this is.
I would
Didn't
encourage,
he just go to Jackson a year ago, John? Less
yes,
than a year ago?
that was less than a year ago. There was a breakup at Wilson Elser.
And then he
and-
went to Jackson,
Right.
and now he's leaving Jackson, and he's going to another firm. I like him, but I don't know.
He offered, obviously, he would be happy to meet with the board, and we actually had a conference call lined up, I think, about a week ago. He happens to be on a family vacation tonight, I guess maybe for several days, and was unable to meet with us tonight. But I can certainly schedule that.
I would like to talk to him before.
I agree with that. And I can also provide, again, the easiest thing might be just to find out his first available time, and if it's prior to our next board meeting, take another shot at having a conference call where town board members can
No,
chat with him. So, Vicky, thank you very much for, I know this is on our list, but
Jackson Lewis bought the lobbying portion of Wilson Elser, so it's not necessarily that he bounced from one to the other, it's that they purchased that piece of it.
there was sort of they took a whole division of Wilson Elser and peeled off, and then people are finding new homes. So, but you know, these are questions which are inevitable, and it's a good thing. And you know, this is actually, and I think everybody knows this and probably has used it to some degree. Anybody on this board can reach out and talk to Alex at any time. We're happy to organize a conference call and kind of guide that, but he really does make himself available to all the board members individually as well. And that's a good thing. So those are those two resolutions related to that. The state requires, you know, that when someone leaves one company, you know, they have to terminate, and then they have to be signed up anew in order to even make a phone call on behalf of the town. I don't want there to be too much of a gap in service, so I'd like to deal with the situation. Number 13 is, this is a memorializing resolution, and we got some language for this from Haverstraw, some from Clarkstown, some we wrote ourselves with help from John Edwards and Vicky Caramonte. And this addresses a very concerning land use proposal in Stony Point that would bring literally hundreds of trash haulers up through Rockland County from New York City to take the city garbage and turn it into various marketable commodities, chiefly biodiesel and other kinds of products, and then ship that stuff out. And obviously Haverstraw and Stony Point are going to have a major conflict over this because of the Route 9W up there. But the towns of Clarkstown, Orangetown, I would argue Ramapo and others as well, all need to look really closely at the potential traffic impacts and other kinds of issues with an increase in trucking of this magnitude. And that also includes the possibility for increase of the train traffic on the CSX line, which already carries the highly flammable back and crude, which will just have more, presumably train loads of pretty flammable stuff. So for all those reasons, I wanted to and the Journal News has had front page coverage of this. It's going to be a topic in the coming year. The DEC has lead agency status, and I want this town to weigh in, and that's why we wrote this resolution, just to kind of start to think about it and register our concern over the project. And it's written here, and again, this is a workshop agenda. Oftentimes with this kind of thing, you know, we get some good comments back from the town board, from the members of the public, and we're happy to try to strengthen this statement or modify it in any way that makes sense. Number 14 is the Sparkhill Palisades Fire District. They're working on a renovation project. They want to be lead agency on that. This resolution says, God bless you, keep up the great work. The town has no issue with the fire department being lead agency on a project that they're funding. Number 15, this is a, okay, this requires conversation. Coming out of our work with the Aloof and really going back to Inelitech and just sort of having a critical awareness of how important public health and having really good standards for measuring, for monitoring, for establishing compliance with any kind of environmental impacts from industrial processes. This board has, and I've promised a couple of times to find a consultant who can take on a range of work, making recommendations to the town board as to how to amend our town code to address issues that come up that need to be addressed at the level of the town code. I've circulated a proposal by Sander Bonville and his company Medair to take a look at a substantial but a fairly circumscribed scope of technical review of performance standards. And this is a situation where the town, and Joe Moran's here, and obviously, the zoning board reviews performance standards, where, the standards for noise, vibration, particulate matter, various kinds of emissions are referencing tables and technical criteria which are literally go back to the 40s and 50s, and in some cases are incomplete or unavailable and require translation or conversion for modern day use. So that's as a starting point, but with other matters related to that, my hope is that we can deliver some very practical technical improvements to our town code in this area that will make compliance easier to establish for everybody involved. So that's what that is, and there's an attached scope of services. I'd be really grateful if town board members could weigh in on that scope, keeping it focused and make it as useful as possible for all of us. Of course, it's a collaborative process, and there's aspects of the town code that are nobody can just walk in and fix. But some of the stuff is technical and can be addressed in the nearer term, I hope.
Well, I think it's great, and I hope that the new healthcare engineer can help out Mr. Bonville in assessing the performance standards.
I'm actually glad you brought that up, Tom, because we've talked about and funded a public health kind of specialist. We want to make sure that person has the kind of tools they probably expect to have. They come in and they're asked to monitor compliance with performance standards.
I think they should be working hand in hand because, I envision that position being the one that is going to be dealing with something like performance standards and revision of town code, and I think it's a great idea.
I think it's a great idea. I support it.
Thanks. It's just a process of having finally bumped up against someone who I think can manage this particular part of the town code
Yeah.
with.
The other part is the actual code, which is going to be a much longer and much more costly
Well,
affair.
But
Well,
if we
there's-
could chip away at a problem area, let's chip
No,
away.
no, I'm just saying I'd like to see a follow-up with everything else. All right.
Yeah, I agree, because once we start chipping away at one area, it's gonna just entwine into the rest of the code. So it's gotta
Gotta
go
start somewhere.
exactly right.
And we'll have him in here. He's costly. Actually, it's relatively affordable, but still,
I think that's pretty relevant.
it's actually relatively affordable, as I say. But still, I don't want him to.
John's
I think we
looking at
should-
it like I wouldn't even-
Let's have a presentation when we've really got something to talk about. I'm glad we don't have to bring him in here just to kind of pitch his wares.
All right,
There's a
sidewalks.
matter here that's split from page 11 to page 12. But this is, again, worth a little bit of description. I was always trying to figure out ways of getting external funding for important town projects. And we met with Senator Carlucci on Friday. I think it was that. Was that just, oh my God, it was just yesterday. But our goal was to figure out what to ask for infrastructure. And in consultation with Jim Dean and also Joe Moran, we were going in there with a pitch related to sidewalks and sewer work. We came out with a sense that the sidewalk project is relatively easy, straightforward. application to make. And we wanted to recommend to the town board that they authorize us to make a formal application through Senator Carlucci for a state and municipal aid grant for $150,000, which is the estimated cost of building about 1,000 feet of really, really important high-priority sidewalk between Route 303 and Tapan along Oak Tree Road, just up a bit towards the entrance to the rail trail and the parking area there. Jim, do you want to say a word or two about why this sidewalk is important? I know it's been on the list of priority sidewalks, probably going back longer than I've been around. But I know that we've
Right.
talked about it many times.
Yes, actually, this will be the last piece that'll then connect us from Route 9W in Palisades all the way to the 76 house in Tapan. There's a section missing now from where Walgreens just went in, up to the rail trail, and then a couple of smaller sections between where the county's new bridge went in and Route 340. So this will connect, it'll give us close to 11,000 lineal feet of sidewalk. That's over the last 20 years we were able to install.
Thanks for that, Jim. So it's actually a pretty modest but really important piece because of the way it connects those elements that Jim described. And that's how we get there, bit by bit. So that's what that resolution's about, is supporting and making that application. Not guaranteeing it, obviously, but it seems like the right application to write. And just parenthetically, we did get guidance back as far as other ways to think about funding the telemetry project, for example, down at the sewer plant, related to the management control of all the pump stations and the control board there. And so we're going to continue to kind of get information about other ways of funding that besides the debt that the town is committed to using for that. So that's item 16. Item 17 and 18, I just want to invite Anthony to come up for a minute, if you don't mind, the head of our IT department. Both of these items relate to making use of free service from the federal government for troubleshooting or identifying any weaknesses or best practices that are useful to the town related to cyber security. So, Anthony, if you could just say a word or two about this, that would be great.
Yeah, and I'll probably be just a little intentionally vague on it. They do offer some testing and some other things that kind of give us a heads up on what the state of our network is and how vulnerable we are, and if we have issues, they'll help, and they kind of give us advanced threat warnings and things like that. But I think it's something that's pretty good that they don't want anything in return from, so I think it's a valuable service.
Yeah, thanks for identifying that as a value to the town, and we had the agreements reviewed by the legal team, and that seems like a good idea. So thank you very much for making that suggestion. Any questions from the town board related to that? No. Okay. Number 19 are documents being received and filed by the town clerk. Thank you, Charlie. Number 20 is a resolution surplusing some long-serving vehicles, and there's a list there. Number 21 is a permission for Police Officer Madalena to attend basic juvenile police course and training at a conference in late August. Any questions about that? Nope. Number 22 is the resignation of Michael McPadden after many years of service to the town. I think it was, how many years was it? 28, right? So we thank him for his service. I just want to pause briefly because I was just thinking about the horrible assassination that took place around July 4th in New York City of a police officer in the Bronx. And I heard an amazing memorial speech by the police chief today on the radio. And it's just kind of in that context whenever we think about our police and what a good job they do taking care of us and kind of signing up to protect public safety, that they really do face some risks and need all of us to be aware of and kind of letting them know about any hazards or suspicious behavior or issues or incidents. Everybody should feel free to speak to a police officer to ask them for help. That's what they're there for. Number 23 is assistance with Colonial Day in Japan. Number 24 is an adopt a spot agreement. It's always nice to have local families and companies signing up to beautify the town, and this describes very specifically, come from the Highway Department, an adopt a spot arrangement. Jim, do you want to speak to this matter, or is it adequately described? This is the Linda Lane Gardens adopt a spot.
It's a re-up.
A renewal, so it's nice that they're still there.
Here at our awards.
Mm-hmm.
And there's another one on there, which is a new one, which is the
Country Deli, yeah.
Country Deli.
Mm-hmm.
Which looks great.
Yeah.
And they were here for the award.
And the ironic thing is, anyone who grew up in that neighborhood knows what everyone used to call the Country Deli. They called it George's, and this guy's name is George.
Yeah, come full circle.
Because anyone that grew up in the '70s, it wasn't North. It was George's, because George Graff owned that building, and he was there for.
Some of us remember when it was Kennedy's.
Hey, I can't. Listen. It's still George's.
George's, yeah, it's come full
It's
circle.
George's. Listen.
The Kennedy family actually was the Orangetown police chief.
I don't remember Kennedy's.
So thank you up to the Highway Department for coordinating Adopt a Spot, and to the companies and individuals who participate in that. Number 26, we just did some surplusing of vehicles. I hope this isn't a duplicate.
Highway.
No, it's not, okay.
Getting that cop car. All right.
So that's from the Highway Department surplusing. Is the surplusing process, I just question, who handles that exactly? Is it the Highway Department do it individually,
Each department.
and the police department does it individually?
Historically, the department heads who have that vehicle declare a surplus and then can be sold. And historically, they also send it to auction and the proceeds.
Right, so that it's handled at the departmental level. Gotcha, so that's why it's not a consolidated resolution. Okay, number 27, this is from Joe Moran. I'll just summarize it, Joe. It seems like a fairly straightforward thing. There was, GHD was hired to do a memo for the DEC related to town compliance with chlorine removal, and then the DEC had comments back, and now the town has to make a comment back to that. And this is a situation where our commissioner would like to have the services to provide that response from GHD, which wrote the original response. So I hope that does justice to it. It seemed pretty straightforward.
Can I ask a question on this?
Go ahead.
How much did we pay GHD to do the original report? And shouldn't they be responsible if it didn't meet the criteria of the DEC?
I appreciate that. Maybe, Joe, maybe you should come up here, because I was wondering about the relative, how many times do you have to pay extra for a response to something? But it is a time-consuming project to get in there and analyze and provide a rationale, so go ahead.
That's right. We paid them $5,500 to do the initial report, and what the DEC requested was approximately 2 sentences revising our speedies permit. So it was relatively vague, and now they want a higher level of detail, including
So it's basically
more
going
of a
up-
cost analysis. They're actually asking more detail on costs, which that I quite don't understand, because the cost is going to be up to us ultimately.
Maybe it's nice if the DEC is concerned about cost, because they're trying to,
Yeah, but the report went up 50%. Seems like, if you paid for a report to meet the DEC requirements, it should meet the DEC requirements. But I guess if the DEC gives you really bad requirements, I don't know.
We've had experiences before, not just with the DEC, with other state agencies, where down the road, they've asked for more, they've asked for different than what they originally asked for. And when know what they did. But that's, seems to be the universal billing standard, but I don't think GHD is to be faulted for
I would put
preparing
it
a
out there.
report which appeared to meet the requirements, and now the DEC's asking
I've seen it, yeah.
more. I think if we did it,
We'll talk
you know,
about it.
and follow up,
Right, we should just say,
it would be, probably the bid would be high.
That's fine. I just, you know, again,
Yeah, I agree.
if I pay for something, I expect to get it, you know, if I bid an electrical job and I have to meet the code requirements, and I don't meet the code requirements, it's my dime to meet the code requirements. So if we gave them a contract to
just to
give
be,
us a report to meet the DEC requirements, and they didn't meet the DEC requirements, I'm not really sure why it's.
but just to be clear, as I understand it anyway, the way we meet the DEC requirements is actually by designing and installing treatment practices which meet their requirements. The report
The report
was
the-
describing what that would be.
Right.
And answering questions the DEC would have about it. And just submitting the report isn't how we comply. The report was describing our
Well,
method of compliance.
The report was step one, to tell you what you need to do,
Right.
right? So, I mean, it seems like they should have made a report which met the DEC requirements on what we need to do.
And then if
And
there
then
was
we have to go out
revisions
for
needed,
bid.
just clarify whatever they
I
said.
think the original instructions have to be a little bit more precise. You know, to provide a report and follow up any questions that come back.
Because what if it comes back again? And you say,
Yeah, that's what
well,
I'm worried about too.
so, okay.
Thank you, Joe.
Okay, thanks.
Number 28 is the town had put out for bid the demolition work at Cherry Brook. I think this is for the inline, or the skating rink and the old bathroom building, right? So we're not, it's gonna be blank until a couple matters get clarified. Mhm. Okay, sounds good. Number 29 is the awarding a bid for heating, ventilation, and mechanical services to Johnson Controls. And it's described here. If the board has any questions about it, Eric is here and can answer them.
I was just amazed at the variation, the high and low numbers.
Yeah, and that's, my guess on that is there's a certain familiarity that JCI has with the building. They've been with us, they were with us for a long time prior to Siemens coming in, and then they were gone for that period of time, unfortunately, and now they're back. I think the other companies just, you know, I don't know, they don't know the building as well, they don't, you know, so I think they're doing something different. We're quite happy with JCI. I'd like to keep them until this building has the wrecking ball hit it, because it's been an adventure bringing in other technicians that look at some of the antiquated equipment in here, and I get, wow, you're still using that? Yeah, it's our air conditioning. So, yeah, I feel a lot more comfortable with JCI here. They're very familiar with everything in the building. And
Half the cost
of Yeah. other
people, I don't know how you would want to go.
no, yes.
Thanks, Eric. The items 30 and 31 have to do with the recommendation for a change in personnel coming out of Rockland County Personnel and the Labor Management Committee, creating a position of real property appraiser assistant, grade 12, and then reclassifying current town employee Hugh Davies into that title. I hope I said that right. Personnel matters are always technical. But essentially, it's work that has to do with reclassifying the position and of a current town employee. Donna is here if the town board has any questions about that. I know it's been circulated via email.
You're missing, says 6913 and 35.
So we're missing a 5 there. And more importantly, we're missing a whole decimal place there, which probably be of some concern to Mr. Davies. So Thank you for that correction. You got that? Number 32 is amending a resolution that was passed earlier that had a mistake or an error in the salary schedule that became apparent after the fact, and that's what number 32 is about. Number 33 is lending assistance to the Rockland County GAA Bagpipe and Drum Competition, July 22nd. And that's it for items on the agenda. Is there anything else the town board wants to deal with right now, or questions, or, all right?
Germans, Robert McBride.
Robert McBride. Teresa, do we need an executive session on anything personnel related, union contract related? Yes. Okay. So we're adding an adjournment of Robert McBride, and I'll make a motion for adjournment, but we're going to also make a motion for executive session to review the town's position on labor contract negotiations. We won't be conducting any more business or discussion tonight after that, so I'll make a motion for the executive session. Do I have a second?
Yep.
Second from Tari. All in favor say aye. A motion for adjournment in memory of Robert McBride. Do I have a second for that? Yep, from Batari. All in favor say aye. The ayes have it.